Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, Flyers Draft Edition with special guest Bill Meltzer. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, and I believe we have quite a special guest sitting in here with us, Lance, don't we?
I think we do.
Oh, man, how about that? We've been joined by the great Bill Meltzer. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing well. Hope you guys are doing well, too.
Oh, man, I'm doing great, Having a good summer so far?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. You know, it's. I'm ready for hockey. It feels like it's. But you've been enjoying the thing.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot going on right now in Flyers world. So some interesting stuff happening really quickly here in the past couple of days and in the next couple of days as well. So.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, Bill. We wanted to get your take here on some draft picks here for the Flyers, since the Flyers are going to be picking in the draft here in tomorrow and Saturday. And Lance posted an article out on FlyersNittyGritty.com the other day, and where he released the Green's Flyers 7-round mock draft. And so we would like to get into that. As far as, because Bill, I know that you did a complete first round mock draft, and what an amazing 8,000 words that was, by the way. And right, and I'm here to tell you, I read a lot of your stuff. I try to read a lot of your stuff, but it gets to be the point where it gets stacked up, so I have to pick and choose which ones I read. You know what I mean? So. But we wanted to get your take. We wanted to get your take on some of these things with the Flyers draft. Okay, so that's why we asked you on. Bill, really appreciate you doing this. Why don't you tell the folks how we can get a hold of you, like your handles, your addresses, and where we can get you on social media and all that, and also tell us about what you've been doing with the Flyers alumni too.
Sure. Well, I'm a contributing writer for the Flyers official site, and I'm also the content manager for the Flyers Alumni Association. So you can find my work many days a week. Right now I've been doing about 4 or 5 articles in the last week on PhiladelphiaFlyers.com or Flyers.NHL.com. They'll both take you to the official site, however you prefer to type it. For the Flyers alumni, you can go to FlyersAlumni.net. And to find me on social media, you can find me at Bill Meltzer on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Bill, for coming on with us, man. We really appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
All right, Lance, you want to get into it, buddy?
I think so. Yeah, I'm interested to pick Bill's mind as well on this and see who he's got there as well and his thoughts. So
all right, so I get to play Gary Bateman here, and I'm going to announce the picks, right? And then we'll go round robin, and we'll go with Lance first, and then we'll go with Bill next, and then we'll go from there, okay? And we'll just get your take on who you think the Flyers are going to select in each of the rounds, all right? Okay. So with the first round selection, the Philadelphia Flyers select, Lance.
I'm going to go with Matthew Coronado from the Chicago Steel. Lot of good players in this first round, I do believe, and the Flyers have been named and to a couple of different ones. But some of the other big names I think are going to be gone by the time the Flyers get to pick. So that's why I went ahead and picked Matthew Coronado. And, he's a big scorer, and that's something that I think the Flyers do need. We have a lot of pass-first guys on this roster, and it would be nice to add in a finisher. This year, Coronado scored 48 goals in the USHL. Just a really good player. He scored at a rate of 1.6 points per game, which was pretty impressive, but he was also a plus 37 on the season as well, a league best. And I think, the kid's a good hard worker. And I really think that they're not going to get any consolation prize here. You know, he's good as some of these other players that are ranked higher than him, and you know, he's going to be a good fit if a Flyers do select him.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to switch the flip here and go to Bill. The Flyers select in the first round. Bill.
I have the Flyers picking Cole Sillinger.
Yeah.
The 13th. Big, heavy shot. Good two-way upside. You know, not the fact that his father is a former Flyer, but he comes from a good hockey family. You know, well-coached player, smart player, and you know, just to me, he's a very, at the same time, kind of a safe pick at 13 because I don't think he's going to bust. At the same time, I think he has pretty good upside, although I don't think he's going to be a superstar. But I think he's a guy who could be a pretty good top six forward in the NHL. So I went with Sillinger.
Okay, awesome. So now both of you guys actually had the Flyers selecting their 13th pick. Okay. And I know that some of the questions that's been fired at Chuck over the last couple of days is, you know, hey, you got your 13th pick here. You know, what's going to happen with that? And he said that if the right deal comes along. Okay, so you guys are both saying that the right deal isn't going to come along in time for them. They're going to use their first round draft pick, and so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this first round, because I don't know. I thought maybe he might have used it, so I wanted to interested to see what you guys thought. I mean, it's still possible.
Yeah, I like Sillinger as well. Although I had him picked to go maybe 10 or 11. It really depends. Hopefully he falls to us because he's a great pick for sure. As far as Chuck possibly trading that first, it could still happen. There's names out there. I don't like a whole lot of the names that are left out there, but I think he was more thinking using that if he had to get that number one right-hand shot defenseman, but he was able to do so without having to give that up. So that's where I thought Chuck would really give that up if he had to, but he managed to pull the deal out and not have to, you know, give up any picks. So,
right. Bill, what do you think about that? I mean, because you mentioned that in your article too about the potential of him using that as something.
Yeah, I actually asked Chuck that question today when he was doing his media availability about the Shane Gostisbehere move, and I asked him, you know, has the outlook changed at all? In light of it, as you know, as just referenced here, and they brought in Ellis, so you have your number one defenseman, you know, on the right side. They ended up moving Gostisbehere for some cap relief. They, you know, paid a hefty price for it, considering. But I mean, listen, you know, and I'm sure we'll maybe get into this later, but you know, that's a player you put on waivers and there were no takers. It's a player you put out in the expansion draft and Seattle didn't take him. At that point, you're dealing from a position of weakness. And so, you know, they had to do what they had to do. At least they still have all of their 2021 picks. So, you know, he said that he's still open to moving it depending on what other pieces are moving around. And I think that still is possible. You know, I think in talking to a couple people a couple weeks ago, they thought it was really 50-50. I would say more right now. I'd say it's more 70-30 that they end up taking using their 13th pick and trying to do something in other ways. Okay. So yeah, so I think ultimately, you know, I think the odds at least right now lean a little bit more towards the Flyers using it, but it certainly isn't impossible that it could be moved.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to ask that question, because you did say that in the press conference today. You did mention that in your article, and you had a different player selected than Lance. So both of you guys felt that the Flyers were going to use this pick. I also feel that the Flyers are going to use this pick. I would have selected either of the two players that you guys would have selected. So, look, I'm just the arbitrator in all this, right? I'm just playing Gary Bateman in this, right? So let's move on to round 2 now, okay? And we'll go with Bill first on this one. So the Philadelphia Flyers select in round 2, Bill.
Well, my number one player that I would love to see fall to the Flyers is actually the same as Lance's. I don't know that Tyler Boucher will actually get to the Flyers in round 2, but if if Boucher is there to be taken. And again, not because of the family ties. I know you're not going to believe it because it's a second straight player with Flyers family ties, but just because he's an aggressive power forward type, kind of a little bit in the Tom Wilson kind of a mold.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if he'll score the way that Wilson has ultimately done, but I mean, he's, good touch around the net, really physical forechecking type of player. My concern is that he goes in that end of the first round, early second round range before the Flyers will get a chance to get him. Yeah. But if he's there, absolutely 100%, that would be a player I would love to grab.
Okay, there you go. All right. So Lance, the Philadelphia Flyers select in round 2.
Yeah, exactly. Same. I had this pick way back in February 24th. I fell in love with this kid, and it is all that Bill just said, man. He is that guy, that missing link that the Flyers lack on their roster right now. That big brash of physicality, that forecheck. Lawton does it. He tries to do it as best he can. But this guy, I mean, he single-handedly goes out there and gets maybe 3-4 checks on a single shift some nights, on a single shift, not a game like some of these, Flyers do currently. So he's just exciting guy to watch. He does have a pop, with a shot and stuff like that, for Team USA. But like Bill said, I don't know if he'll be able to, keep that same stronghold with that, but he'd be a great, third, hopefully second line player, maybe someday. Just a lot of bounce in there. There's a lot of wishful thinking in that statement there, but the kid's already 6'1" and 200 pounds, so he's got a solid NHL frame on him, and he just bangs, man. He just goes. I really like to watch this kid play.
Ever since we even did a pretty extensive show because it was based off one of the articles you did back earlier about him, and you can't. It's like you're watching. It's almost hard to believe that it's his son. Like you just because you just don't see that type of snarl in Boucher's game. You know what I mean? And his son just has a bit of a snarl, I think, and he has that little bit of that physicality. And I just don't think you saw that with Boucher. Of course, now he was a goalie. You know what I mean? But still,
I mean, he was definitely no Ron Hextall, that's for sure. But I don't think he took any guff from anybody either. So
no, I know. Yeah,
but I mean, definitely, it'd be nice to. I think Tyler grew up in the Flyers locker room pretty much. And just be nice to have him in there wearing the same jersey his dad did, for sure.
Boy, wasn't that? All right, we can dream. All right, wake up. Okay, now we're going to move into the round 3 here, and we're going to do a little bit of lightning here on these because we're getting into the later rounds, and some of these players may or may not be here, but I just wanted to get your take on some of these anyway. Round 3, we're going to go with Lance first, and Lance, you select in round 3 for the Flyers.
So sure, the defense really needs some help, but I'm not so sure that the player that I would want to select, again, from the Chicago Steel, would have been Jack Bohr, a right-hand shot defenseman. I'm not so sure he'll still be there. I think his draft stock is really rising, but a nice player to take in that sense in the third round is Josh Doan. Josh Doan as well was a Chicago Steel player. They had quite the team. They're winning the championship, and I mean, he had over 30 goals, almost 40 assists, for 70 points on the year in only 53 games played. If you watch his tapes on him, you can see a lot of his dad, who is NHL, almost Hall of Famer, I would say at this point. He's really waiting, but Shane Doan. So just really a lot of similarities in their play, and it would be a great guy to bring into the hold here.
Okay, Bill, who would you select in the third round here for the Flyers?
Well, I think if anybody in your top 50 falls to you in that spot, it's a solid pick. It's hard to handicap beyond that round. I think that Lance's pick of Josh Doan makes a ton of sense because You have a guy who's a draft re-entry. So you had an extra year to scout him. You know his character. You know his game. He's one of those guys. Not everybody is draft ready in their draft year. Wayne Simmons is a good example. Ended up being a second round pick, a year after he went undrafted. Doan brings a lot of character, a lot of compete. Has good hands. His dad was no speedster either. He's not the fastest. Generally, when you're getting into all of these rounds, you're drafting for one or two attributes. There's usually some hole in the game that's why they're going there rather than the first or second round. But I like the idea of taking a little older player, who's still kind of a known quantity, and he really did take off in the USHL this year for Chicago, as Lance said.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's the one reason that he really took off there was, Chicago was stacked. Let's face it. They had Owen Power there previously. They had Brendan Breeson, Sam Colangelo, Sean Farrell, and Matthew Coronado. That all these guys were ahead of him. In the sense of they're going to get the puck on their stick blade in the times that matter before him. So he had to kind of take a back seat. And with some of those players now getting drafted and moving on, he was allowed this season to really, come up and be more of that, producer for them this season.
Okay, there you go. I like this pick as well, too. I'm just trying to see the Flyers improve their team by selecting the best player available. When you get to these later rounds, that's when you basically have to get to that philosophy. You know what I mean? I think in the first two rounds you pick for need, and then in the later rounds you pick the best. Depending on what you can do, what you have, where your pick is, what you potentially might have in that pick. If you have an early first round pick, I think you're going to use that to select a good player, but I think you can still get a good player in the second round that can still potentially help out your roster. And then I think in the later rounds after that, I think is when you're kind of starting to try to get the best guy available. Oh, there we go. You went away and came right back. So we're gonna do Bill for you on the fourth round. And what do you think on the fourth round? Who would you like there?
Well, I know Lance's pick here was Gallagher, I think.
Yeah, Ty. Yeah.
And so there's Gallagher. There's why not? Who has the best name in the draft? Why not?
Right.
But if he, I think you get a defenseman who can move the puck and shoot the puck. Right-handed defensemen are always a premium if you can get them. I think this is kind of where you look for a puck-moving type and maybe a guy who's a little raw in some areas right now. The Flyers really like to draft from the U.S. National Development Team program, so that's that would be a positive if a guy like Gallagher is there. This year's I don't think this is a great year necessarily for European picks. So I think that I think you'll see a few more guys. Although some of the European leagues did have pretty complete seasons, like the Swedish league, so that might be something to consider too. But I think you'll see more players like from the from the junior A ranks. You'll see some kids that are pretty raw. But I think that Gallagher has pretty good tools, and that's what you look for. If you look a couple of years ago where the Flyers drafted Mason Millman, and Millman's been on a good track since then. And you're drafting for those kind of things. I think he has some tools. He certainly is far from a guarantee. Anybody at this point in the draft onward is not going to be a guarantee. But I like the player. And actually, one of the funny things too about trying to handicap a draft like this is once you're getting really mid to late third round, there really isn't a big difference between a fourth round pick and a seventh round pick.
Yeah.
It's really, just really a matter of, really teams' philosophies are really, it's a lot of teams, some teams will draft by positional need or stylistic need early. Generally, they'll take best available player in round 1. A little later is where you draft by, positional need. The Flyers really do need more right-handed shooting defensemen in the system, so that would be a good spot to draft one. There now another consideration is most years you will draft a goaltender. This year we didn't touch on the goalies in the first round. That's a real X factor this year. Will 1 be off the board, or 2, or even possibly 2 off the board by the time the Flyers pick? If there's just a run of position players, then all of a sudden your best available player might be a goal.
Yeah.
So it's but I think that somewhere, if not in round 4, then somewhere by the end of the draft, the Flyers, may take a goalie at some point too. So that's it's pretty wide open, but I like the right shot defenseman there.
Yeah.
Okay. Lance, what do you think here? Round 4 there, your selection is Ty Gallagher.
Yeah, so to touch on the whole goaltender thing, I think it's a huge drop-off. I think we do need to address the goaltending issue. Obviously, I don't see many after Kosa that are even worth it. A lot of goalies had over 3 goals a game average and a subpar 900 save percentage. So I'll talk about a free agent one at the tail end of this in a second that I think would be the best bet as opposed to drafting one. But Ty Gallagher, I like him. He's a right-hand shot defenseman. He's got a little scoring niche to him as well. He can put the puck in the net. He's got a little bit of a shot at this point in the draft, like Bill said. None of the picks are going to be refined. They all have to work on something. But I like his size, too. He's 6 foot tall and 190 pounds. He's got a nice wrist shot, and he's going to a good school there up at Boston U. If Jay O'Brien stays, and he looks like he will, it'd be nice because they have already been, kind of scouting that team anyway. So, have somebody there to go and coach him up throughout the season. That'd be great.
Awesome. That's one of the things, too, that I wanted to touch on, too, especially with this year's draft, is that a lot, and Bill, you even said it, too, because some of the European teams didn't have complete seasons. And because of that, there's not a lot of tape on some of these players, some of these younger players, especially the European ones. You know what I mean? Because they didn't play in those leagues. And then a lot of some of the guys from Canada and some of even the younger guys from Europe came over to play in the college ranks here in the United States for the first time, where United States, and you even mentioned it about having the United States league, and Flyers have been picking guys from that league, Cam York, Bobby Brink. I mean, there's a list of guys that there's even available for this year. You know what I mean? So that's why I think that this year's draft is going to be slightly different than I think maybe next year, because we're not going to see those players that are on the cusp as often or as much, I think, as this year, because there wasn't as much tape on them. There wasn't as much scouting information on these players. You know what I mean? So
this is a good year to take American players because these leagues had full seasons. The OHL didn't even have a season this year. The Quebec League was really interrupted, and the Western League started very late. So a lot of those, a lot of the players either went to European leagues that were playing, or they went to USHL, such as the case of Sillinger, because he's a WHL kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a weird year, and because of the lack of the travel, because of the travel restrictions there were. Teams also had to do a lot more video scouting because you couldn't cross over all the border.
Yeah,
You really, a lot of these you can just throw into a hat and they could fall just about anywhere. It's a good year to have all of your picks though, because they're like lottery tickets. I mean, there are going to be some kids that surprise. So.
Exactly. So I know there's a couple rounds of the draft here left, and I want to try to condense these here in a little bit because I want to get into some things here real quick so we can, not tie up too much of your time here. So we'll go with the last 3 rounds here is 5, 6, and 7. With this in round 5, you have Sean Shigel. What do you say that, Bill?
It should go, yeah.
Okay, all right. Nico Huhtinen?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Big body player, yeah. Maximilian Glatzel, yes.
Yeah, all right.
Big
so those
German
are the last
defenseman.
3 players. Those are the last three players in the rounds 5, 6, and 7. What do you think about those three players, Bill?
Real quickly, yeah, you have a guy who, I mean, he was a little bit junior A, but he's a Calgary Hitmen player. He's I mean he's a good player. I mean, he actually put up some pretty good numbers for a guy in his draft eligible year. Calgary gave him a little bit of opportunity to run with, and he took advantage of it. So that's that's a guy who could, in his draft +1, draft +2 year, might be a guy who be a good value pick for about where Lance had him.
Okay, and then the Houghton and Glotzel. That's round 6 and 7. You think of that? What do you think about those two players there?
Well, the Flyers are so overdue to pick a Finn.
Really are.
I've picked a Finn in 14 consecutive drafts, so they are due to pick a Finn. And actually, and this is the kid who's coming over to play over here too next season. Yes. But he did play in the Finnish league this year.
Yeah, he played for Everett, I believe, right?
He played for Everett Silvertips. And actually, I was able to. This is what usually get this deep in the draft. You're going a lot of secondary source stuff. This is actually a player who played in the Worlds for World Juniors for Finland. So I actually did get to see him play a little bit. And a guy who played kind of on the lower end of the lineup. He actually had a good tournament. So that's an interesting name for that.
Oh, spot. Wow. There you go. Okay. And then the last one is Maximilian Glotzel there for round 7.
And he's already he played for the German national team. Just a guy with tools. Have not really seen him play, but it's a body type that you're going for. Plus it's a D, and it's always if you're not taking a goalie, take an extra defensive body.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I wanted to speed round these because I wanted to get Lance to talk about why we didn't select a goalie in this draft this year.
Yeah, so I mean, great young guys that I picked for the last couple, rounds, but really didn't pick a goalie. And my theory behind that, I played goal for a long time. I really studied a lot of the goalies in the draft this year really hard, and I just didn't really like what I seen. I love Kosa, but he could be the Flyers selection, but that may stir up a bit of controversy. Who knows with the first round pick? But I really like a guy in Dryden McKay from the Minnesota State University team there. He is a phenomenal talent. He has been a 2-time Hobey Baker Award finalist for the past 2 seasons. He's won an incredible 75 games in 3 seasons, and he has an incredible 24 shutouts in those games. His goals against average are very minuscule, under 2 goals a game every single year, and well over 900 save percentage. He's 23. He's undrafted, collegiate player, is playing on the biggest stage. I think, the NCAA has come up so much. They're developing, so many good kids that are turning into quickly good pros right after. I mean, you look at Spencer Knight in college ranks, and what he do? He had a great season there and came right in and played. And I think really it would be a good third goalie option if they were to sign him right now. I don't think any of the Flyers goaltenders that are under contract right now could step up game 1 if necessary, if maybe one of Carter Hart or whoever they bring in to be his backup go down with injury. I don't trust any of the ones yet. They're not developed enough to be that guy that could come up and play in the NHL next season. But I do, in my mind, have, Dryden McKay as one of those players being able to be like a LaFontaine or who's the kid that came up for Boston as well, who played for Maine, Swayman. These guys all came up really quickly and were able to step up, and I think he could be something similar. I think Chuck really doesn't want to take another Roddy Ross type that was, in my mind, a failure, or a bust. And, this guy would just be a slam dunk in this sense.
All right. Well, Bill, what do you think about that? I mean, that's because he's an undrafted player. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about bringing in that particular?
I'll add a few thoughts to that. Yeah, he's been a tremendous collegiate goalie. The track record of older collegiate goalies turning pro is so. Even the top guys. You're looking at the Alex Lyon types.
Yeah.
Good AHL goalie. He's actually won a few NHL games, stepped up. That's not a bad outcome for a guy you've never drafted and you sign with a little older free agent. There are guys that end up making it. Like you mentioned, Swayman. Swayman, I think, is the future in goal. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very physically impressive goalie. Very athletic. Then you have the types, and actually, this is the guy who years ago was in Flyers camp, and they tried to sign him, and then Pittsburgh ended up getting him, Scott Hartzell, and he ended up busting in the minor league level. So and he had really good collegiate numbers too. It just sometimes, a little bit of goalies, and Lance will test this also. It can be skewed a little just based upon the team that's in front of them. If they're playing for a really good defensive team, they're usually going to have pretty good numbers, especially collegiate hockey. It's pretty structured game.
Yeah.
So goalie who's he's on a regular schedule. You're basically playing in most leagues. You're playing Friday, Saturday. You have all week to practice. It's and then it's a whole different ball game when you turn pro. It's not. Sure. I mean, it's not a bad option to have a guy, just because although I like Urson quite a bit, he's still very young, first year in North America, and Felix Sandstrom has had consistency and injury issues. He finally seemed to put it together later in the season for the Phantoms, and I'm hopeful he can build off of that. You have Lyon unsigned. It is true that right now there is no third.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Ustimenko's, been injured, and he just came up to the AHL. He had a good track record at the ECHL, but he just came up and played a couple of games. There's not a whole lot of depth there if they don't sign back Lyon, and I for one really hope they don't. I think he's had his time here.
Yeah.
And it's time to get somebody else a chance. So I don't know. Yeah, they need to address two goaltenders in my mind, a backup and then a backup to the backup. Because injuries occur is everything. So
I'm with you. So I wanted to get your takes on these last two things here, Bill, and then we'll try to let you go here. A lot of things happened over the last few days here, especially with the expansion draft and the Seattle Kraken taking Carson Tarwinski. Also, one of the big major moves was Ryan Ellis being brought in. Okay. And I would like to just kind of get your take on two quick things. I want to get your take on what you think about Ghost being gone, and then what you think about Ellis being here. So let's start off with the most recent wound and go with the Ghost being gone.
Well, I mean, the Flyers needed cap space. It came down to that. And with Ghost, if Ghost is going to play on your third pair, and if he's your first power play unit, maybe you can have that $4.5 million cap hit. Ghost has had a lot of injury issues. He's had a lot of. I like Shane as a player. I really like Shane as a person. He's a great guy. And is actually, and I tweeted it out today. I mean, I covered Shane at his first day of development camp with the Flyers in 2012. He was picked out of the third round out of Union College, and you're watching him like, boy, this guy can really play. This guy's gonna be a pro. There aren't many players who aren't first round picks who you see in a development camp setting. Where you go, this guy has a skill level over and beyond. You knew he was probably gonna be an NHL player. So when you're following a player for that long and you're covering them, there gets to be some sentimental attachment. But when you put all that aside, I mean, Cam York, I think is NHL ready right now. Put him in that third pairing role, ease him in. He's on an entry level contract, so he's a cheap player for 3 years to come here. So I think that I think it was the die was kind of cast last year on Shane being gone. Flyers put him on waivers.
Yeah.
And takers.
Yeah.
And the Flyers put him in the expansion draft, and there were no takers.
No takers.
At that point, you're dealing from a position of weakness. Everybody knows, you need to get rid of the contract, particularly when there were no other deals with. Seattle made no deals at all, so there was no cap relief, and therefore the Flyers had to take something that was where you're trading a second round pick a year from now, a late round pick too, but it's really the second round pick and getting nothing back in return.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
That's the cost of cap space.
Well, okay, all right, I'm with you on that. Lance, what do you think? A couple quick words on that.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Like Bill said, you tried to get rid of him multiple different years, trade deadlines and expansion drafts and everything. Nobody would take him for free, when we gave him the opportunity to. So you had to give up somebody and or something. And Arizona, why not? They have trouble hitting the salary cap floor most years. They need some pieces. They got some elderly guys probably moving out in the next couple of years. But hey, they took Chris Pronger, so why not call them up? They might take another. They might take another one up, and it works.
Yeah.
And it worked. A second round pick is not, in my mind, the worst option here to give up. To get that cap space, we need to get certain players signed, and I don't think Chuck's done. I think he has a couple other moves he wants to make, and hopefully this helps him be able to, wiggle a little bit more into a deal that he wants to get done. So, Ghost, addition through subtraction in my mind. You get rid of Ghost, who really didn't fit into the system fully. He was a minus player, after the injuries and stuff like that, and he wasn't really helping. And definitely not if he can't stay in the lineup like the previous season. So I think he had a little bit of bounce back year, and that's why somebody was willing to take him.
Okay. The latest addition through complete addition was the Ryan Ellis move there. And I'm interested to hear what your take is on this, because this was that particular player this was a particular need that the Flyers needed. They needed this particular type of player to come in and play with Provorov, or at least somebody that would be a good match for him, or at least an attempt at a good match for him. So I'm interested to hear what you think about this one, Bill.
Well, I've always been a big Ellis guy. The only two downsides are that he's small. He competes like hell. So I'm not worried about him being intimidated by anybody. That's
right.
Banged up is because he competes the way he does. But he's small, so you still have a need for, especially you trade Myers, who's a big guy, can also skate. And so, I think the Flyers are going to look at another physical defenseman here, whether it's a free agent type like a David Savard or maybe by a trade. But I think that's something they're still in the market for. But in terms of what you brought in a guy who will play every game situation. He'll get, he'll play at the top of the defensive rotation. He'll get you 23, 25 minutes a night. He'll play on the play. He'll be in the top of the PK rotation, probably with Provorov. I could very easily see very good chemistry between the two of them. Ellis is an excellent passer. And so Provorov's never going to have to wonder where his partner's going to be at any given time. And Ellis will put the puck right under the tape every time. He's not going to throw too many suicide passes his way.
Oh, good.
That was a problem last year. There were times last year Provorov could footsteps coming because the pass was in his skate and he was in trouble before the pass even got to him.
Yeah.
I think that can only help. He'll only help the team. He moves the puck out of the ice, up the ice really well. Chuck Fletcher alluded to it, and I agree too. There's the defending piece of lowering your goals against average, but there's also the defending less piece of it. Ellis is now. Listen, he's played with a great partner himself. He played with Yossi in Nashville, but they were a really good pairing. There's plenty of game left in the guy. He only just turned 30, and when he came back, and as it turned out, it was a broken knuckle, not a shoulder, so people could exhale. You know, when he came back for the stretch drive in the playoffs, I mean, he finished the year with 9 points in 14 games down the stretch, and then 5 points in 6 games in the playoff series. I was on, I think, a combined +7 between the two. So he was back on his game. He looked like Ryan Ellis again. He struggled a little bit early the season before he got hurt and exited the lineup, but the latter part of the season he was himself again. So I mean, I think that as long as he stays healthy, you know, if you're missing him 5, even 10 games a year, that's fine. If you're missing him 20 or 20 plus games a year, that's when you're in trouble. But, yeah, but I think I think it was a risk worth taking. It takes something to get something, you know. Phil Myers has great physical ability. Has a learning curve he's navigating. I think he's still kind of mistake prone, and they're still kind of the same mistakes he's always made. So, you know, you're hoping he would take that next level this season. He really didn't.
Right.
And we could talk a lot about Nolan Patrick. I'll just keep it short and say he needs a change.
That's
putting it nicely. Yes.
Yeah, that's putting it nicely. But you know what, though, Bill? Here's the thing: you're preaching to the choir here on that one, because we're all in the same camp with that. We all felt that that's what needed to happen with Nolan Patrick. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for a first round draft pick to come in like that, and then to deal with all of the physical issues that he had to deal with. I mean, I would not wish that on anybody. You know, and so I think it's great that he's going to get an opportunity in Vegas, and so I'm really glad that hopefully he gets to shine and gets to play. You know, like the usual Flyers curse. You know, we trade him away and they get their name on the cup the next year. You know, so all right, here's another one. Well, Bill, thank you very much for being here, man. We really appreciate this, and we hope we didn't take up too much of your time, did we?
Oh no, not at all. I had fun.
Okay, awesome. That's great, man. Why don't you tell the folks how we can get a hold of you and where we can get all your great stuff and how we can follow you?
Sure. At Bill Meltzer on Twitter, flyers.nhl.com. The current piece is my full first round mock draft for tomorrow. And some reaction pieces for things that have happened this week, a little bit of analysis of, you know, what's been going on with the team. You can find me also at flyersalumni.net. And actually, I think I'm a little too late on this as I'm saying it. We just wrapped up a jersey auction from the recent charity game that the alumni did against the Flyers Warriors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it just wrapped up probably about 10 minutes ago. So
oh, nice.
Seemed to do really well, though. I actually think it was Joe Watson's jersey.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Well, that's great to hear, Bill. Man, like I said, we really appreciate you coming on and talking Flyers and giving us the lowdown here on a lot of things. Look, I still think there's a lot of things to come for the Flyers this off season. So, like I said, man, thank you very much for coming on. So, really appreciate it. Lance, you got anything for him?
Nah, man, I'll see you next year up top there, and I'll make sure to come over and shake your hand and pick your brain on a couple of things when I attend a few games.
And hopefully one of these games I'll be able to come down there and see you guys as well too, because I would like to shake your hand, Bill, and at least buy you a cheesesteak or something, man. You know what I'm saying? So actually, I'd much rather prefer a pork sandwich from Denick's. That's more my style, but you know. Whatever.
It all works. It's all good.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you very much, Bill. Really appreciate you hopping on, man. Thank you very much, sir.
Anytime.
Greetings. This is SteelFlyers from the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. SteelFlyers stands behind this company 100%. Taking care of SteelFlyers furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The SteelFlyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back here, man. We really appreciate Bill Meltzer from coming on. How about that, man?
That was exciting. That's fun.
Man, this is why we do this, man, because we bring the experts in to give us all the lowdown on stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Bill gave us some lowdown on some things, and now is Lance's time to give us his thoughts on the two end stories that we followed off with in the first part of the show. And the first question that I asked Bill was, what did you think about Gostisbehere being traded away from Arizona? He gave a great answer. Now I'm going to ask Lance. Lance, this just happened here today. Gostisbehere was traded to Arizona, and basically it was just a cap space, as Bill said. And what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I liked it. I really liked the deal. Like Bill said, we tried. Chuck tried. He waived him. He tried at the deadline last year, I believe, although he said, otherwise. He tried this year at the deadline. He tried at the expansion draft. Nobody would take him. And he just didn't fit the system. And although he looked a little better this season as opposed to the season before when he was in the press box most of the season, I think it was time for him to move on. I think, I didn't like all his negative, plus minus numbers he was getting. He was slowed down a little bit with all the knee injuries and stuff like that.
True.
And like I said earlier, why not call Arizona up, who took Chris Pronger from us after he was already done.
It's funny. I was gonna ask if he was gonna take up if they would maybe be interested in taking Brizgalov off of our hands too.
Yeah, something. But a second-round pick and a seventh-round pick, and especially since it's not in this year's draft, you can make that up at the deadline. If for some reason we're not back in the playoffs next season, you can trade people away and get a second-round pick or get a seventh-round pick right back at the trade deadline. That's not a huge loss. It's a bigger gain in my mind. You're gaining cap space, and you're gaining the ability to bring in a player that better suits this system to play. And that's what the Flyers need to do. That's what Chuck needs to do. He brought in AV. Now he needs to start to bring in players like Ryan Ellis who better fit AV's system, and it will work
We'll get
better
to that in a minute.
for that. Right. So
okay, so you're good with that, right?
kudos,
I'm with you,
kudos
dude.
to Chuck on that.
Yeah.
Ghosts need to go, and I'm all right with it for sure.
I had the extreme privilege of being on a portion of the show with OMB Puckcast earlier today, and we talked about some of the same things. And the question that he asked me was, well, "What do you think about the Ghost, move, and what are your thoughts on that?" And I said, look, I'm okay with exactly the trades. I'm okay with them moving salary. I understand they're not going to get anything for it. There never was going to be anything coming back from Shane Gostisbehere because they tried to move him in however many times they tried to waive him. They tried to do, whatever. He was exposed in the expansion draft. I think they were trying to move the wrong player. Instead of trying to shop Ghost around, I thought maybe they should have tried to shop JVR or Voracek. Instead of waiting until the end to shop those guys, because quite honestly, I think Ghost is a pretty good player. And I liked him here in Philadelphia, and I felt that he caught on last year. He bought in, wasn't hurt. And I think this would have been that next year where he could have made that next step forward in AV's system.
If he was a right-hand shot, he probably would have stayed around, okay? Because he did buy into the system. But
all right, I'm with you.
Like Bill said, you have a guy in Cameron York who's can play that spot that he did at a under $1 million salary, and you have Igor Zumala who's knocking at the door too, who is a left-hand shot. So both those guys are going to be ready sooner rather than later, and you can easily replace Ghost with Cameron York and get the same kind of output out of them for a heck of a lot less. And because you got to resign, Carter Hart, you got to resign, Sanheim, you got to get a backup goaltender, you got to possibly trade or bring in another offensive player that can put a puck in the net.
See, that's the other thing that we touched on too, because I don't think all of the moves have been done yet. So the Ghost move was to move some salary cap. And before that happened, Chuck Fletcher brought into the fold Ryan Ellis from Nashville. All right. Now, this player carries a 6-year contract with $6.25 million on it, AAV, right? So that severely put a dent in the available cap space, but it checked off quite a lot of boxes for the Flyers. Okay. And I'm very interested. We heard what Bill thinks and said, and we were all kind of thinking the same. We're all in the same camp that we all thought Ghost needed a change of scenery, and it was a good move that they got rid of him, moved his cap space. What do you think about Ryan Ellis coming here to the Flyers?
Well, I like him. There's some pros and some cons, though, with it. Ryan Ellis is small. Philadelphia is already pretty small team. Ryan Ellis is rated at 5'10", maybe with skates on. And
oh no, wait, no, I thought that's without the skates. Can we get him at least get him to like 6 foot with skates on, right? How many? Look, how? Okay, technically, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Technically, how much does skates give you? 2 inches? Or skates 2 inches tall?
At least, yeah.
Depending. All right. Okay. So, all right. So yeah, we could have gotten him to 6 foot.
Yeah, maybe.
Come on. All right. Anyway, maybe. So 5'10".
Anyway, he's 30, which is good. He's still got some time under his belt, but the term is what it bothers me. 6.25. Okay, he's a number 2 defenseman. If we went out on the free agent market, it is dwindling for defense right now with Seattle signing a guy I liked in Adam Larson. But Dougie Hamilton is going to cost $8-9 million here, guys. So this guy fits the system. He's a Philadelphia type guy. I think he will be an instant fan favorite. Loves the town, will love the town. The town will love him. He's a hardworking guy. And, but that 6 years left, all right, scares me a little bit. He's 30, 6 years left. If it was more like 3, then I would have gave him a heck of a lot more for him. Because you don't know in this league. He's been a little beat up recently. And hopefully that doesn't continue. But my favorite thing, he's a defensive defenseman here, guys. They found Provorov a partner, somebody that counterbalances him very well. Provorov is a guy that likes to score. You had Myers, you had Sanheim, you had Ghost, all who like to rush the puck up, and try to get in the offensive zone. Well, that's all well and good, but you need somebody like a Ryan Ellis that is defensively responsible as well. Now, Ellis can shoot the puck as well, but he's more inclined to stay back when somebody else does it. Okay? He's a career plus 114. All right? That says a lot to this old goaltender right here. That is a guy that I would want in front of me. Okay,
on your face when you say that.
Yes, making me look good. And that is what Chuck went out and did. He went out and got a guy who is gonna protect the net, gonna protect his young goalie in Carter Hart, and allow him to regain that confidence that he once had. Okay, that was a pick. And plus the fact that he got rid of Nolan Patrick, a horrible defensive player, and was the second worst plus-minus rating in the whole league last year defensively. Yeah. And he needed a change of scenery, as we all know. It could probably agree on. But he got rid of Myers as well. Like Bill said, you expected more out of him. You expected him to grow a little bit, and he didn't. He didn't put on weight. He didn't put on, muscle like Joel Farabee did. Yeah. And he, in my mind, he wasn't physical at all. Just like he's a Sanheim 2.0. I can't. I'd rather see Sanheim win than Myers, but with Ellis being a right-hand shot, they possibly wanted another right-hand shot to replace him. But I don't know. Overall, I say Ryan Ellis. Let's get it. He's going to be a fan favorite for sure, and he's a guy that I would definitely want in front of me. And Carter Hart should be all teeth right now, smiling. Yeah. Because he got a major piece to help him out for
That's
sure.
Good. Yeah. That's good when you help to build that kind of confidence. Look, I too looked at Adam Larson, and I really liked his game, and I also looked at Ryan Ellis as well, and Savard was the other guy that I looked at. Right, for those chip players that could come in and be that partner for Provorov, like come in and play over 20 minutes a game and be those solid stay-at-home defensemen that are calm. You know what I think is going to be really cool about this move is that's going to be a really good player for Cam York to learn under. Sure. Because Doesn't it seem like that's kind of Cam York's game too, where he has the skill and ability to jump up in the play, but he's more of that calming defenseman, get you that initial first pass up the ice, be that guy that's going to hang back at the blue line and catch that stray puck that's going to come leaking out. I mean, it just kind of comes across to me like that. Maybe I'm crazy.
No, York is and has the ability to jump up and skate all the way in, behind the goal even, in the opposition's end if he so chooses, and if he sees that somebody is willing to fall back to let him do so. He's a lot smarter player in that mindset and just doesn't go when he feels like it. So that is why he was drafted so high.
And probably why I think you or Bill at least has a lot of confidence in him to show out this year.
For sure.
I would probably like to see him play a little more in the AHL. The reason why I say that is because, look, I don't want to rush him. I don't want to ruin him. I don't want to rush him. He showed out really well last year, but he was handpicked in the selections into those situations. You know, he was put in situations where they knew he would be successful, and he was. So cool. But I really don't think he had, because he came right from college right into, he played a couple games down at the Phantoms and then he was brought in. I would like to see him play a little bit more time down there in the Phantoms, get that 24 games a minute work, get that in every situation work, get that, because he's not going to get that with the Flyers.
He's not, but due to cap constraints, I think he's going to be up with the Flyers at the start of the season. He is talented enough to do so, and yes, I would want him to get first line minutes for a little bit and play in the Phantoms, but I don't think the Flyers have the ability to let him do so. But the best thing about it is that AV is really good at helping young players. Okay, if you remember when Frost came up, who did he stick him with? He stuck him with Giroux. He stuck him with very talented players. He didn't stick him on the fourth line and expect him to produce right out of the gate.
True.
I think Chuck has already alluded to him wanting to see Cam York up with the Flyers. And I believe AV will kind of coddle him a little bit, if I can use that term. And, he won't just throw him to the Wolves right away. If he's ready, he will put him in there. And Chuck as well is a guy that believes if a guy is ready, then let him be ready and let him play. But, I think they're not gonna really rush him, but at the same time, they're not gonna really make him stay down there when he necessarily doesn't need to.
No, I agree. I'm not trying to force him to stay down there. I just want him to get that time where he gets to play those top line minutes and get used to playing those top line minutes, because that's really where I see him, is playing top line minutes in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? First or second pairing is where I see him. Okay. In the Flyers lineup. Okay. And playing that's if you're playing top line minutes, that's at least 22 minutes a game. You're playing second line minutes, that's at least 18, 19, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So I see him in that role. You know what I mean? So all right. I guess we're gonna find out, because he's gonna get a shot. He's gonna come to camp and he's gonna get a shot to make it out of camp.
Well, hopefully they bring in a second pairing right-hand shot defenseman. I'm actually working on an article about that for a replacement for Myers.
It's called Sam Moran.
That would be great. That would be great. But, we do have your favorite player, Justin Braun, around, and I really hope that isn't Chuck's answer. I really hope they bring in somebody else. and I don't want to just throw out names now because I'm still trying to
all right.
put out the article. But
I
I have a few that could fit into that slot and maybe allow Cameron York to play with a Justin Braun on a third pairing, which I think Justin Braun would be better suited at coaching him on a third pairing. And I know how we both like Justin Braun, but I hope he stays off of the top four for sure.
Okay. I'm going to go you one further than that. In my opinion, if Justin Braun is still on this team at the beginning of the season, then it's a failure as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, I had to say that. If I held that in, my teeth would have exploded.
Yeah, okay? I could see that. But I think we're going to have to deal with him one more year. I think we're going to have to deal with him one more year. Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. Look, I have nothing personal against this player. It's not that at all. Okay? It really isn't. But for somebody that's making that kind of money, that's playing that poorly, I have problems with. So.
Well, when he was forced into a first line role, trying to pair him with Provorov, I think they were setting Braun up to fail last season when they didn't get Niskanen replacement. So I don't. He's not my favorite player for sure, but I'm okay. It's horrible coming out of my mouth, but I'm better if he plays a third line role like he is capable of at this point.
No, stop.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see a couple of different guys who might be in my upcoming article over him, but in order to look at what we had to give up to get rid of Ghost for nothing. What are you going to get for Justin Braun? Or what are you going to have to give up?
That.
Yeah, what are you actually going to have to waive
that?
You have to buy him out or something, but
because that won't get waived because they tried.
Yeah,
right? Didn't they try to waive him at one point, Justin Braun? I can't remember. I don't know.
Whatever.
All right. Well, look, I just really would not like to see him on the team next year. I also agree too that I think Cam York could potentially be that player. I just want to see him get a little seasoned, just because I don't want to ruin him. That's my only fear with Cam York. I know that because I watched him play in college, and the kid the kid's got all the tools. Watched him in juniors, the whole 9 yards. So okay, all right.
He darn well better be, since we passed up on Cole Caulfield.
Okay, well, now he didn't exactly. He did okay. He did okay. He had an opportunity to play with a playoff team, and he did okay.
Yeah, he did okay for coming from college and being the best college player in his sophomore year.
I'm with you.
And quickly came out and played a couple games learning the Canadian system and helped them in the playoffs reach it. In his first year pro. So.
All right. So I got a couple of quick questions here for you that I want to address.
All right.
For this last little bit of the show here. What do you think about the Seattle Kraken taking Carson Tarwinski? Now, look, you and I both knew. We said this last week on the show that there was no way on God's green earth that Seattle was going to go, hey, we'll take Voracek. Yeah. And we'll just take him. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right? So we knew that was not going to happen. What else did we say was going to happen? They were going to take a low guy on the pole who really wasn't going to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so what do you think, man? What do you think? Carson Tarwinski is gone.
No big loss there. I do like the kid. He had plenty of heart. He had plenty of size.
Agreed.
But it was kind of, a hard uphill battle for him to make this club. yes, it was definitely wishful thinking and having JVR exposed and Voracek exposed. And, they ended up protecting a guy like NAK, who I thought would be taken by the old Flyers bench boss, Dave Hackstall.
Yeah.
So, like I said in that article, and like I said today or last night in a tweet, Dave Hackstall thinks he's probably got an NHL Stanley Cup champion team right now, and I don't think that Seattle is going to be anywhere near what Vegas was. They have some good defensemen, but other than that, they got what they got. They got a bunch of third and fourth line players that are still very young, and Carson fits that mold as well. And he could develop into something in time, but I don't think he's going to help them next season. It's going to be tough, and I think Dave Hackstall loved him for the short time he knew about him and he was here. But that's just a Dave guy right there. He probably went clamoring to Ron Francis over him.
Oh yeah,
and,
gotta have this one for the
begged
Flyers.
for him. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to just see what your take was on that. You know what I mean? And the last thing I'm going to talk about too is not necessarily, the glitz and the glamour. But these are the things that happen within the team because of Ian LaPerriere now being moved to the head coach of the Phantoms. That left a bit of a hole there in the assistant coaching ranks for the Flyers. And just recently here, they announced the other day the hiring of Darryl Williams as the assistant coach to take Ian LaPerriere's place. And I'm interested to hear your take on that hire there, Lance.
Sure. First, I think, like I said before, I think Ian LaPerriere going down to the Phantoms was a glorified demotion. He really didn't, prove himself in the NHL ranks, and the stuff that he was in charge of didn't really go too well. And then he was given a lesser job. So, it is what it is. But I think with this signing of the new coach, I think it's, simply to bring in an AV guy. He worked as an assistant under AV for 8 or 9 seasons with both Vancouver and with the Rangers. And it's a guy that can come in and better help AV to get this system really laid out there and enforce, these rules and how he wants to really have it play out on the ice. And hopefully Chuck can do that. And like I said earlier, get some more AV guys on this team. His team is not really full player-wise of AV guys. And it's going to take some time. And I think he's already done great with the subtractions that he made with Ghost and Myers and definitely Nolan Patrick leaving out for him to set himself up for bringing in some different guys that can better fit his system. So let's hope, Chuck can keep it going here and make some more bold moves to better this team. I think he has, in a sense, already. Just got to see who he's going to fill out the rest of the roster with. I think a big hole that's not being talked about or not being rumored round is goaltending. Who's going to be the backup goaltender to this team? I was cursing and throwing stuff at the TV when I heard, Dreger was picked and re-signed with Seattle. I really thought that was going to be a great fit for a backup or a 1A option, if you will, to help Hart for the Flyers. And we lost out on that. So I really think the goaltending free agent list is not great. I don't know what was up with Carolina today, trading Alex, say his name. Yeah, that.
Djokovic.
That guy. Yeah, who saw that coming?
Yeah, but
Jeez.
I think that was because that was part of with the Bernier thing,
Yeah.
and I think there was something there that I think Carolina saw that he wasn't necessarily ready to take the reins as a full-time number one goalie yet. Do you know what I mean? And so they're trying to win now, Carolina. Do you know what I mean? I'm just throwing it out there. Hey, I don't
I
know.
saw him as the definitely at least 1A goaltender next season, and they
Oh, yeah.
definitely had a slew of other guys who could have backed him up in a split game schedule there.
Exactly.
I think I don't know if it was maybe to try to not have to pay him and free up some more space to bring back Hamilton. I don't know. But he doesn't even seem like he's that willing to come back to Carolina. I think he's enticed with another team. So
We'll see.
a lot going on in a short amount of time, guys, and it's definitely interesting. I can't wait for this weekend and the draft and everything and free agency coming up. It's like Christmas for me right now. So
Awesome sauce, man. Yeah, dude. Thank you very much for putting together your list. I know we had to kind of blow through it there a little bit there towards the end, but great players. Looks like Bill really kind of, aside from the first round pick, I think Bill really agreed with a lot of the picks that you had made. You know what I mean? So I think that was really good too. And we got a lot of information in this show here tonight, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. It was always fun having my buddy Bill on. I always go track him down at games and love to just sit there and have conversations like we just did with him all night long until we suddenly look over and the game has started. So, it's always great to have him on. And definitely I agree with Bill with, Sillinger would be a great player. I also like Mason McTavish, and others. But I just thought that both those guys would be potentially gone by the time the Flyers selected. So that's why I really liked Coronado as a guy that can just simply put the puck in the back of the net.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And Flyers definitely need that. So
man. Yeah, definitely, guys, if you haven't read it, go check out my mock draft. I did a lot of research. I show you a lot of videos on it. Everybody pretty much knows and have read a lot about the first round picks that are going to be happening, but really go in and check out my stuff to really find some good, talented players in the later rounds. Chuck Fletcher's really good at getting some quality, getting some quality in the later rounds. And that's why we got Elliot Dejanay. That's why we got Wisdom as well. So look to my draft and really get some deeper rooted knowledge before the draft. I would say that would be great.
For sure, man, and we'll have links to all of as we always do. We have links to all of Lance's articles, so you can check that out for sure. And we'll even put the links in there too for Bill, so you can get a hold of Bill's latest stuff. He writes a lot of stuff is on Hockey Buzz, and he of course is the head contributor to the Flyers. So he's always got stuff out there too. So, very much, thank you very much for Bill coming on. Really appreciate that. That requires the Hockey Writers Inc. salute for that. Mucho appreciado for that. And also, hey, buddy, 35 weeks in a row. Bleacher Reports, man. Every time we put the show out, doesn't matter if it's Sunday afternoon or, it doesn't matter. It just automatically goes out there. So thank you very much for that. That's the huge another Hockey Writers Inc. salute for that one. So appreciate that, all the support for that too. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Canine Country Club Resorts. They take care of all your pets' needs, from daycare to spa treatments and even pool time. Check them out on the web at www.cccresorts.com or check them out on Facebook. Lance, another good one in the books, man. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I had fun.
Yeah, it's always good when we have experts on, right?
Right.
And then I get to be on too.
Yeah, yeah. Can't get any better than that. The guy, who the Flyers himself pick to write for them and cover them. So,
exactly.
a big mentor of mine for sure. So
Awesome. Thank you very much for Bill coming on. Really appreciate that. And thank you very much, Lance, for another great show. We'll check you guys out on the next show of the Hockey Writers Inc. We'll catch you next time. Thank you very much.
thanks, guys.